Your focus question is, how can I solve problems using the properties of similar polygons? How can I solve problems using the properties of similar polygons? All right, similar polygons. Similar. This symbol right here, one little squiggly line, is the symbol for similar. So similar polygons, they have the same shape. They are different sizes. Their corresponding angles are congruent. And their corresponding sides are proportional. Any questions so far? Write down similarity statements. Identify corresponding angles and sides. Similarity statements, identify corresponding angles and sides, and scale factor. Is the ratio of corresponding sides. Okay? Now, if you look in your book, look at Guided Practice 1 on the bottom of 469. Okay? We're going to do that example here in a second, and that relates to problems 8 through 11 on 473. All right, so now flip over to 473. Look at problems 8 through 11. Because those are, I'm going to assign you those today. And then we're going to do problem 2, guided practice 2 on the bottom of 470, and it relates to problems 12 through 15 on the bottom of 473. So the first example problem that we do is going to be connected to problems 8 through 11. The second example that we do is going to be tied to problems 12 through 15 in your assignment today. Got it? All right, so first of all, guided practice number 1. You can call it example 1 if you like. You're going to be asked to, in the diagram, NPQR is similar to UVST. So, NPQR similar to UVST. List all pairs of congruent angles and write a proportion that relates the corresponding sides. List all pairs of congruent angles and write a proportion that relates the corresponding sides. Okay? They even give you 2 pictures. So you get, and you don't need to draw the pictures if you don't want. And then this one's smaller. All right, so step 1, list all pairs of congruent angles. So your congruent angles, you can get that from the similarity statement. Okay? Angle N is congruent to which angle? Angle U, good. We did that earlier this year. And angle P is congruent to angle V. Angle Q congruent to angle S, and angle, what is that, an R? Angle R is congruent to angle T. It's the first part of the problem, listing all the congruent angles. Second part of the problem is it asks you to write a proportion that relates the corresponding sides. Proportion relating corresponding sides. And again, you don't need the picture to do this, but sometimes it helps. Proportion relating corresponding sides. So let's pick a side in the shape on the left or in the first description. And if you pick NP, side NP, put that in the numerator. NP. First 2 letters in the description, wasn't it? So side NP is going to be the numerator. What's going to be the denominator? UV. Side UV, good. And we're going to make that equal to side PQ in the numerator, and what goes in the denominator? VS. Which is equal to side QR. Denominator for QR? ST, very good. And that's going to be equal to the last side, NR, and the denominator for NR, UT. And that's your proportion that relates corresponding sides. And you're done. Clear? Okay. List the pairs of congruent angles. There's your pairs of congruent angles on the left. Write a proportion that relates the corresponding sides. This is the proportion that relates the corresponding sides. Any questions there? All right, turn the page and look at guiding practice number 2 on the bottom of 470. Determine whether the triangles are similar. If so, write a similarity statement and scale factor, and explain your reasoning. So you're given two triangles. Triangle NQP. Triangle RST. And you're told that N is congruent to R. And Q is congruent to S. And you're given some side lengths. 15, 12.5, and 11.5. And then 12, 10, and 9.2. Okay, determine whether the triangles are similar. If so, write a similarity statement and scale factor and explain your reasoning. So, the first thing about similar polygons is all of the angles are, corresponding angles are congruent, right? So, are the angles in the triangle on the left congruent to the angles in the triangle on the right? If two angles in one triangle are congruent to two angles in another triangle, the third angle has to be the same, doesn't it? All right? Then the second step would be to determine if the corresponding sides are proportional. So if all these angles are congruent, let's write the similarity statement now and then find out if the corresponding sides are congruent, are proportional. So what do you want to call the triangle on the left? Triangle NQP, easy enough. Triangle NQP is similar to triangle. If you called this one NQP, what do you got to call this one? RST. Okay. Now, if that's the case, let's determine if the corresponding sides are proportional. All right? So let's start off with side NQ, which is 12.5 in the numerator. If NQ is in the numerator, what has to be in the denominator for NQ? RS, right, which is 10. And that's got to equal. Let's do QP in the numerator, 11.5. And S to T would have to be in the denominator, 9.2. And then finally, P to N, 15, over T to R, which is 12. Now yesterday when you were working with proportions, we said that in a proportion cross products are equal, aren't they? So you can find out if all these ratios are equal to each other by crisscross multiplying. So take 10 and multiply it by 11.5. 10 times 11.5 gives you 115. Then multiply 12.5 times 9.2. 115. Okay, so these two ratios are proportional, aren't they? So now check the third ratio and the second ratio. 9.2 times 15. 138. And 11.5 times 12. 138. All right, so the second and the third ratio are proportional. Okay, so if the first is proportional to the second and the third is proportional to the second, then the first and third are going to be proportional, right? So are the corresponding sides proportional? Yes, they are. All right, then the last thing to do is to determine your scale factor. So your scale factor is equal to, that's the ratio of corresponding sides, right? What corresponds to the 15? That's your NP. RT, which is 12, right? So your scale factor is 15 over 12, which simplifies to, scale factor is 15 over 12, which simplifies to 5 over 4. So those are the steps involved there. You determine if all the corresponding angles are congruent. If they are, you can determine if corresponding sides are proportional. If those two things are true, then you can write a similarity statement and determine the scale factor. When you're doing the scale factor, whichever triangle you list first, that side length goes in the numerator. The triangle listed second goes in the denominator. Okay?
How do you know what side
I just picked the 15 because it was a whole number.
Oh,
You can pick any two sides.
they'll all be 5/4.
They're all going to be 5/4. All right? Whether you have to simplify it or if you have to expand it. If you take your 11.5, the 11.5 would have to go over what? Let's see, this is QP, 9.2. All right. If you expand that or reduce it, it's going to simplify to 5/4. All right, your assignment for today is page 473. (8 through 15). Be sure to check headline. Today is the first day of the second semester. And answer the focus question.